Welcome back to the Arbitress YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make these beautiful corset straps with a crisscross neckline. So in this video, we'll be learning how to cut it and then we'll sew it in another video. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this corset, I have my lines drawn already. This is my bust point. This is my armhole, sorry. This is the bust point, the under bust, and the waistline. So I'm going to be using these points to draft my corset. So the first thing you need to do is to get your bust span. For me, it's 8 inches, and 8 inches divided by 2 is going to give me 4 inches. So now on my under bust, I'm measuring the 4 inches, and also I'm measuring it on my bust point also, so that I can get a straight line. So I have my line like this. So the next thing now is to get the distance between the bust point and under bust. So for me, this is 3.5 inches. So this 3.5 inches from this bust point area, I'm going to mark the 3.5 inches round so that I can get a circle. So whatever your distance is, that's what you're going to mark. It doesn't have to be 3.5 inches. So from that point, you mark it up and down and then sideways. Make sure your points are close to each other so that it can be easy for you to join them. And if you also have like a protractor, you can just use that to draw out this. So I'm going to connect it now to form a circle. Okay, so I have my circle like that. The next thing is to take my dart. So for this, I'm going to be taking a dart of 2 inches on the under bust and the waistline. So if this is for a plus size, you can just take a dart of 3 inches instead. So the 2 inches, I'm going to share it between the two sides, and then I'm going to have 1 inch here and also 1 inch here. So also on the waistline, I'm going to do the same thing, and then I'm going to connect this to each other. So now this 1 inch, now I'm going to connect it to my bust point, but I'm not going to be connecting it on the bust point area exactly because I don't want it too sharp. So I'm just going to go down by 1/2 inch, and using the curved side of my ruler, I'm going to connect this. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now to do my tightening on the upper part, I'm going to measure what I have left on my shoulder, and I'll divide that into 2 to get the midpoint. Once I have the midpoint, I'm going to connect it to my bust point like this, and then on this upper part here, I'm going to take the same dart of 1 inch on both sides, and again I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch, and then I'll connect this to my bust point also on both sides. Make sure you don't have any sharp edge. Okay, so if you have any sharp edge, by the time you're done, just blend it in. So now I have my dart. So the next thing is for us to draw out our neckline. But before I do that, the distance that is usually between each cup of the corset, I want mine to be around 1/2 inch. So now on my bust point from the center front, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch, and then also on my armhole, I'm going to measure on my armhole line, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch, and then I'll make that into a straight line. Okay, so this is what I have. So the next thing is to determine how high you want your corset to be. So you can maintain the circle that we have here, which is 3.5 inches upwards from our bust point. But if you don't want to expose too much, you can increase this by 1 inch or 1/2 inch, or you can just measure from your shoulder to know where it is. So for right now, it's around 6.25, if that is okay for you, but I don't want to expose too much, so I'm just going to go up by 1/2 inch on both sides. So what I'm going to do is to place my tape measure now on each of my dart leg, and then I'm going to extend this upwards by 1/2 inch on both sides. This is not compulsory, you can just maintain what you have. So now it is extended. Now on here, I want to determine how deep my neckline is going to be. So again, you can do this from your shoulder point, and then get my armhole line is 8 inches, so you can stop it there, but I want it a bit lower, so I'm going to go down by 1/2 inch also, and then I'll have it at 8.5 inches. So this is my new neck point, neckline point. So from here now I'm going to connect to the first dart leg to get the first side of my neckline. So using my curved ruler, I'm going to place it like this, and then I'm going to connect it. Okay, so to form the first side of my bust cup, where this stops, the ½ inch where we've measured, which is the bust point, again I'm going to take my curved ruler and then connect like this to form my first bust cup. Okay, so you can see that we have the first side, which is this already. So now to get the second, so for the other side, here on my armhole line, remember this is the actual armhole line, I'm going to go outward by 1 inch like this, and then on that point also I'm going to go downwards by ½ inch. Okay, so I'm just going to make that into a straight line. So now I'm going to connect from the second dart leg to form my second neck, to complete my neckline. I'm going to connect from this point all the way to the ½ inch that I went down with. Okay, so I've connected it. So to complete my bust cup from this point also, I'm going to use my curved ruler to connect it to the under bust, and that is going to complete the bust cup for me. So from here I'm going to find a curve. From here, a smooth curve. So you should ideally use your, okay, so as I was saying, I prefer to use this type of curve. So now I'm just going to place it here and here and draw the other side of my curve. Okay, so now I have my complete bust curve. So now this is for the second one. Let me just bold the line so that we can see the line along that we're cutting along. Sorry, so this is the first one, and then here is the second one. Okay, so these are our two cups. So you can see that it is easy. The next thing is for us to take our circumference measurement. Okay, so like I was saying, 38 divided by 4 is 9½. So I'm going to measure what I have here. I have about 3 3/4. So I'm just going to skip it and continue from here because I don't want any shortage from my dart. So I'm going to complete the 9½, and this is what I have. So I'm going to add allowance of 1½ inches for sewing. And then on the waistline, my waist is 28 divided by 4, that's 7. So I have 3 inches here. So now I'm going to skip the dart and continue my measurement, and my 7 inches is here, and then I'll add 1½ inches same allowance to it. So I'm going to connect this now and then cut it out. So this is my actual measurement, and this is my allowance. So using my paper scissors, I'm going to cut this out. Remember, when I wanted to draft the neck depth, we're going down by ½ inch. So the ½ inch should be continuous to the center front like this. So I'm going to cut it here and then cut this out as my center front. So the next thing is to remove this cup. So you just cut everything just like we cut our normal corset cup. So now I've removed the first part of the cup. Now I'm going to cut the rest. So I've cut it out now. This is the center front, this is the side front, and this is the first cup and the second cup. So I'm going to keep this now and work on the back. So the back is simple. drafted the back bodies just like we normally draft our back bodies. The only modification I want to do here, because I went down by half an inch on the armhole for the front, and then I'm going to use them to join each other so they have to match. I'm also going down by half an inch for the back, and then I'll measure how low I want the back to be. I want it to be a bit low. If I maintain what you have here on your shoulder, I'm just going to go downwards by 1 inch. So from there now, I'm going to connect it to my new armhole line, or I can even go as low as 2 inches. Depends on you and what you want. I'm going to connect it to my new armhole line there, and this is going to be my back neckline. So I'll take this to my seam, to my zipper allowance, and then I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so now it depends on you. You can actually cut this out, but for me, I just like to close my dart and then hold it with the tape. But you can also cut it into two so that you have a seam around that area. So I'm just going to close the dart now and use my paper tape to hold it down. And this is what my back is looking like, and these are the front pieces. So now I'm going to cut this on my fabric now, and in another video we'll see the sewing process. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut this on my fabric. This is the center front, and then I added allowance for seams on the dark line. So I did not add any allowance on the side because I already added it on my pattern. So these are the cups, and this is the back. So like I said in another video, I'm going to show us how we're going to sew this. But in the meantime, I'm going to cut my lining, and then I'm going to fuse my gum stay. Now I'm using wadding to pad it, so I'm going to be fusing this to the back cups.